Hello everyone, episode 4 of this Treasure Inside edition. It is December 22nd, almost Christmas, and I'm joined here today by Max. How you doing tonight, Max?
Good. Yeah, 4 episodes. Wow. This is the 4th one. It's almost Christmas. I'm doing good. How are you guys?
I'm doing good. Before we go too much further, I should introduce we have another guest host tonight. Last week we had Froggy. This week we have the management. So the management, were your parents accountants or something? How did you get this name?
Hi, everyone. No, actually, a big part of why I'm so pumped on this treasure hunt is because I'm a AT hiker, and on the Appalachian Trail, you get trail nicknames, and mine is the management. You definitely don't get to choose it. It's chosen for you, and we'll save that story for another day.
Well, what is that, like Burning Man or something when they give you a name when you show up?
I don't know about Burning Man. I've never been. I've always heard it's really interesting and just really eclectic, but I've not actually heard that before.
Yeah, so when you get there, they take you into like a tent and smoke all sorts of smokes, I think, and they give you like a name for the week when you're there. That's what made me think of it. So I did not know that's what happened on the Appalachian Trail. That's news to me. So have you been doing treasure hunts for very long?
No, I'm actually a first-time treasure hunter. I learned about the Forrest Fenn hunt after the original had happened.
Yep.
The Apple podcast is where I heard about it, and then I got on the right algorithm, and this book got advertised to me, and I pre-ordered it, and here I am.
Well, we got you on the right podcast, right? Because we're going to be talking about the Forest Fenn hunt tonight. But before we get there, let's talk about what's been happening during the week. To be honest, there hasn't been a whole lot of news this week. We will say that the ebook is still available that we talked about last week, but they did have some problems with the Kindle version, I believe.
Yeah, there were quality issues on some of the images, especially I think affecting the Appalachian Trail box.
So how can people get the ebook then? Where do they have to go?
It's available on Apple Books, and I've heard that's really good quality.
Great, yeah. And I did see the actual normal hardcover book. They're saying on Amazon it's mid-February they're expecting to have copies
Wow.
in. So that's, for me, that's pushed out, I believe, from what we talked about last week. So again, if you got in early and got one of those original books, you're good. But if you need the information, it's now available for you for ebooks. So if you just want to get stuck into the hunt, you don't need the full book. It's actually available for download with Apple Books. So I would say if you're trying to get into it, you're chomping at the bit to do it, just go get the ebook and get going on it because everyone's going crazy on this. I don't know about you guys what you think about it, but I think even though there hasn't been a whole lot of progress necessarily, like big breakthroughs on the books this week, the community itself and the hype around it just continues to grow.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of like alliances form and people becoming friends, and a lot of people sharing the nuances of their ideas, and a lot of just questions about more details, less theory and more like nitty gritty.
What do you think? Do you think the people that win this is going to be a team, or do you think it's possible for someone to do it all by themselves? Because it seems like it's that thing of like two minds is bigger than the sum of the parts of the two minds. Because if you come up with something, the other person could build on that and get to a space where neither of you could have gotten to in the first place. So I'm the type of person where I think I would rather just do it on my own. But I'm not sure, like if someone does it with a team, it feels like it's a little unbeatable. But at the same time, is that team going to stick together? Are they going to be able to hold it together? For people who don't really know each other very well, are they actually going to be sharing the clues with each other to get to the hunt, to get to the box? Sorry, that's what I've been thinking about.
Yeah, well, I've heard that there was another treasure hunt that happened recently that they were doing it as a team, and it was a huge scandal because there was one person boots on the ground, and then another one was sending intel from home remotely. And when the person on the ground found the box, they cut the other person out completely and kept it all to themselves.
Yeah, I guess that's
So,
the risk you take, I guess. So
yeah.
Very good point. That second one you made, because you know my conspiracy side, right? It's itching, and I don't think even two. I mean, two friends can do it, right? I think me and Chaz can go and look for a hunt and split it evenly. But I think the way it's coming like this, so many people just over the airwaves, right? Online helping each other. I'm just doing it for fun. If someone finds it and we kind of pointed them in the right direction, I'll be happy about it. But I don't expect it to get split in 40 different ways if two different communities just got together online and some on the ground. I don't see anything getting split.
Yeah, I think that too. I think if you're going to do anything, it's a very tight-knit group, maybe two or three people who know each other pretty well. Beyond that, you're really risking someone not splitting the prize or getting a little gray area in that, I would think. Um,
And imagine if we even put a little more spice into it, I can see. I mean, I hope nobody gets in danger, right? But the Indiana Jones type of stuff can
well,
really get competitive.
I would say so. Yeah, I would say, be careful out there. But there's
Yeah,
a
be
few things
careful.
this week worth going over. So
Go
one
for
thing
it.
is that, as we know, we talked about last week, one of the good things about the ebooks was it was a newer edition to see where the corrections had been made. And we went over some of those last week. But Mysterious Writings has a Discord channel. She also has a really good YouTube video on the differences between the first edition book and the ebook, which is the most up-to-date version. So it talks about some of the typos that were in the first edition that are not clues. And as a summary, a lot of the typos that were in the first edition are not clues. They were corrected in the ebook, so it was good to have that clarified.
Yeah, I followed one rabbit hole on a based on a typo that has been corrected for about 4 hours one night. So I would like that time back in my life, please.
Chaz makes virtual treasure hunts, but and the worst. Remember the worst experience was that first mistake. Like, oh my god, the solution's wrong.
Yeah,
What do we do?
we had to put in all sorts of quality measures after that. Making a mistake is not fun on a treasure hunt, I'll tell you that. So the management, you brought up something this week. There is a fake Medium account, right? I wanted to bring this up. Max has already been scammed, so we want to make sure everyone's on top of this on this show. But did you want to talk about that part of it or what you found this week?
Yeah, it's at John Collins Black actually, and it has been verified that from JCB's support team with Mysterious Writings, that is a fake account. Also, John has posted on his, I think it was an Instagram screenshot I saw of him. Again, it's a screenshot, it could be doctored, but it says that he only has Instagram, Facebook, X/Twitter, YouTube, and then the e-newsletter that comes out, and that's published by info@treasureinside.com.
So in terms of the hunts themselves, I haven't seen any big breakthroughs like I was talking about this week. So the last few weeks, I mean, it's been around for a few weeks. It felt like every week we were seeing some breakthroughs on some of these hunts. This week, I didn't see as many breakthroughs, which is bad for the people looking for the prizes. But what I will say, if you haven't got into the hunts yet, and you feel like everyone's getting way ahead of you and there's no point in even starting, I wouldn't think that. First of all, people are starting to get a little stuck, not knowing where to go. Some people are going back to the very beginning again, thinking that what they have doesn't make any sense. We've got to start afresh. So there's still plenty of room for people to start afresh on some of these hunts, and you may be well ahead of people before you know it. So I would encourage you, if you haven't jumped in, jump in because it's not like this has all been solved and people are way ahead on all of these.
Yeah, and especially because John Collins Black has said so many times, right? If there's snow on the ground, don't go. You won't find it. There are still people that are doing boots on the ground that think they have a solid solve, that have metal detectors, stuff like that. And if you're just getting started, the author of the book is saying you're not going to find it until springtime.
Yeah, so even if people are ahead in the solving of it, then you can still catch up. But I don't think people are even that far ahead anyway to get towards the solution.
That just skimming around the few socials that I do, there is a few people in the last few days that are saying, like, one guy is saying he's narrowed it down to Western NC, and this is the third time he's gone, and he's convinced that he knows the location of that one. And the other one was talking about Colorado, something about Yaoman, and he's saying row 6 to row. So he's pretty convinced that he's also got something down, and there's some corrections or some people saying, hey, that's been looked at and you might want to reconsider. But just everyone's going to be for sure. I think if you're really, really for sure, it's probably wrong.
I
It's
think it took him 5 years to make these puzzles. It's nobody's going to solve it in a month. Sorry, bro.
I
Well, the
agree.
one thing that I do know is if you're the only thing that can make a treasure hunt easy if you're an expert in that specific location or whatever it is that the main riddle is about. So, like some of the hunts that Chaz has made and even I've made, I know that if you just know about this thing that I'm talking about, it could be pretty easy if you put a few other things together.
Yeah, I think from
That's a
his
good point.
perspective, it's probably the way he thinks he's thinking. Why haven't some people got some of this yet? But when you're not thinking in the same train of thought, it can be a lot more difficult. But what would you do, Max, if you found one of these treasures? Would you keep the contents of it, or would you sell it for money? What would you do with it?
It depends which one I find, but I'd probably use it for some type of investment. Again, it depends. If it's one of the cards, it might be just something to hold on to, right? One of the artifacts, something cool to just, maybe pass down to your kids. But it's like the Bitcoin or something else that maybe I can do something and put it to work. I probably say invest it and maybe a 10 or 20% of it, give it to some charity.
How about you, management?
Um, so I've been thinking about it a lot, and I really kind of feel like, we're returning all of these precious artifacts right to their homeland. So I really feel like some of these are just really owned by the world. So I think if I could return some to get some good luck to the homelands, I would do that. I also would probably loan some out to museums and then have that as a recurring revenue stream. And then I'd probably sell some of the other stuff to improve my quality of life.
Yeah, I think most people it would be kind of a mix, although some people might just sell all of them. There was some I was reading in the book today about these artifacts from ancient Greece from like 1000 BC, and I thought how cool it'd be to own and just wear some of those things occasionally. The Pokemon things, though, probably sell it first day. No interest in the Pokemon cards, to be real honest. Uh, I think there's some rare Pokemon cards in there. I could not be able to tell if they were rare or not. Not something I'd really want to hold on to. So I think if it doesn't really speak to you that much, probably could sell it to someone who would treasure it more than we would. So
I
what we
think
want to,
Post Malone is a big Pokemon card guy, I believe.
oh well, he can buy it off us then.
Yeah, exactly. Just sell it to the richest person you can find that's into Pokemon.
That's the best strategy, I think. Well, what we want to talk about tonight, there was the Forest Fenn box. We've been through. If you've listened to all the three episodes we've done so far, we did the past and future box. We did the Appalachian footpath box. We did the Pokemon box, not my favorite. And then this week we're going to talk about the Forest Fenn box. That's the last of the four treasures, the last of the smaller boxes that have been placed around the US. Now, the reason why I left this to the very end is that the Forest Fenn box has a bit of history to it. So, for those who don't know, the management talked about it earlier in the show. The Forest Fenn hunt was its own hunt. I think it was placed like something like 10 years ago. And it was done by an older gentleman who was getting towards the end of his life. And he put a treasure out there in the Rocky Mountains worth something like five or $600,000, mostly of gold nuggets, I believe. And it took something like 8 years for someone to find it. And unfortunately, he passed away a few months after the treasure was discovered. One of the people looking for that, though, back then was Mr. John Collins Black, the person who made There's Treasure Inside. And he actually talks about this in the Forest Fenn chapter. And I didn't realize the extent of how much effort he put into this previous hunt. He spent 4 years looking for this treasure hunt. I was actually thinking when I was reading that this is like some sort of revenge tour that he's putting on everyone. That he might have some sort of PTSD from looking for 4 years for this hunt that he decided, you know what, I'm going to do this to everyone else and they have to go spend 4 years looking for this. But I think it takes a special person. To be honest, I don't think I would have spent 4 years looking for a particular treasure, although maybe 4 years from now we're still recording this podcast and I'll prove myself wrong. But it was found by a guy called Jack Stoof, I think it's pronounced. And Jack looked at it for many years as well. And there was a rumor that he went and looked at the location 25 times before he found it. Again, I've talked about this for many weeks in a row. What kind of weirdos do we have in this community that go and look for something 25 times in a row? You have to be a special type of person. But there was a bit of controversy on this, and actually, John Collins Black mentions this in the book that there was a rumor that Forrest Fenn himself solved it himself And it wasn't Jack that solved it because he just wanted it done because he passed away a few months after the treasure was found. Now, one other thing in the book is a treasure that John Collins Black put in the box with the Forrest Fenn box is this olive jar. And within the olive jar is an autobiography of Forrest Fenn, the guy who put the original treasure in there, plus more information about the Forrest Fenn hunt. And he said that John Collins Black said he opened the olive jar, read this, and it was very interesting and not what he expected. So those who look for the Forrest Fenn hunt, a lot of them are focused on this box because they want to know the truth behind the original Forrest Fenn box. So this one's a little more complicated, has a lot of history to it, a lot of backstory, but people think that the Forrest Fenn box is in one of four states in the Rocky Mountains. That is Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico. So most of the work is being done in those areas. And there's a poem in the book. It's 6 stanzas long and has all sorts of clues in it. For example, there's one line here that says, "Pass by a place where once was brown. Brown with a capital B, like it's a person."
So
Um,
Brown was actually the place of Brown was actually in the original Forrest Fenn poem. And so there's a lot of repeated phrases that are throughout this poem that Forrest Fenn used in his.
yeah, like the warm waters halt. That was another one, right? That was in the original
Yeah,
poem,
yeah,
right?
there's several of them.
Right, which
But
sounds
there's slight variations, which is interesting.
yes, and you have to wonder though, is he reusing the words but they have a completely different meaning? That's what I would expect him to do, and not have like
Right.
the
True.
same meaning as the original one, and to throw people off a little bit.
Totally possible. I'm assuming everything has more than one meaning if I think it's a clue.
Yeah, a couple of things. My 2 cents is first, you just scared me because I thought some of these might be easy, but you're telling me he spent 4 years on a hunt he didn't find, and now I know he's a pro in actually making this too, so that definitely scared me on that. But then the other thing is, it almost seems like he's testing the guy himself. So if that guy doesn't find it, then he never found the original hunt. What do you think?
Do you mean the Jack Stoof, the one that they thought?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he might have hit it in close to that same area, or he knows where it was, and he's saying if that guy doesn't know where it is, he's not going to find my hunt. So it's either is that guy still alive?
The guy that found it? Yeah, he was a young medical student at the time. So I think he's probably in his 30s now, maybe.
Yeah, I think he has a bone to pick with the whole situation myself.
You mean John Collins Black does?
Yeah, yeah, he spent 4 years on that, and he thinks that, and it's his. Is it his theory that he didn't find it, and the guy, the original guy,
Well,
might have just gave it up?
I don't think it's his theory. I think the theory's out there, but I was surprised that he actually put that in the book because it's not that flattering to the original guy that there's this controversy surrounding it, you know. So I was a little surprised about that he put that in there. I mean, maybe this whole thing is just this is just him on a revenge tour that he
I
spent too much
think
time on this original box.
when you were
Or
explaining
the
that,
fact that that's included is your spidey sense is picking up on something and you need to investigate what could be the motivation behind including that.
yeah, very interesting.
So, management, have you spent any time yourself looking at this hunt and have any ideas on what it could be?
Yeah, I have. I actually spent a ton of time poring over it today. One of the things that I thought stood out in this chapter was how John Collins Black described his experience hunting for Forrest Fenn's treasure, and he basically walks through like a 6 step process of scouring the internet, zooming in on Google Maps, poring over physical maps, watching Forrest Fenn interviews, reading FAQs, and reading books in Forrest mentioned. And he's saying this is what he did when hunting forest treasure. And I'm like, he's telling us what we need to do in order to get all the information in order to solve his own treasure hunt.
I think that's right. I think that's right. And you have to wonder though, what is not on the internet? When he said look at physical maps, would physical maps have something extra than Google Maps would have? It's possible. I think for the Appalachian Trail, right? I think there was only certain things that were shown on the trail maps that are not shown on Google Maps. Maybe on Apple Maps, I think some stuff was there, but there's definitely things that physical maps show, I think that Google Maps doesn't show.
That's entirely possible. The Google Maps is probably just a subset of, something the GIS data that the government has. The alphabet people have all the information.
That's right. If they want to release it, they could. But I think it speaks to though, like when he, like you were saying, when he was talking about how he solved that, I think it would speak to how you need to solve this. Probably not just this hunt, but probably the other hunts in the book as well, the other four hunts.
Yeah. And he says one of the big ones that he says is he talks about Forrest Fenn's love of wordplay. And then in the beginning of the book, in the section on how to read this book, he specifically says that he uses anecdotes to illustrate themes throughout the book and to draw attention to the bigger picture.
So in some ways, I think he's taken the tips from Forrest Fenn. So I think from what I heard, you do not have to know much about the Forest Fenn hunt to solve this. And he said it before that everything you need is within the chapters. So things like the Pokemon box, I feel like you should. He references some of those Pokemon characters. I feel like you may need to know what those characters are, though that doesn't fit with his description of only needing the things in the chapter. But I'm going on his word that you don't need to go research the Forest Fen hunt. It's really just a tribute to that hunt. He started a brand new one, but it has very similar themes to that hunt.
Yeah. In reading the poem, I get a very just like a if you're looking at it from a poetry perspective, right, the emotion behind it, a very bittersweet vibe from it. And he talks about, going along the road he knows and park his car and search for heavy loads. It was not there, although I tried. I think that that first stanza points to where he thought the Finn treasure was hidden, and that's where he's starting
And
his
he did
treasure hunt for the
he
Finn
did
box.
right, and he did mention I think he was in Colorado before looking for the treasure at some point, but he probably went all over. I'm sure he probably looked at all the states at some point. So there's not a whole lot to gather from that particular thing. But again, all these words that he uses in here usually have some sort of double meaning. So I think what you would need to do is reread the chapter and look at each word and think, is he saying something different here than the words appear to be to begin with?
112%.
Yeah, I think, and didn't he say at the end of the poem that everything you need is in this poem? So he even narrowed it down. So I think there's a lot of distractions and a lot of wild goose chases that he's also throwing. And maybe this old hunt from 2014 is one of those. And you're right, you don't need it. You might need to know a little bit about it, the backstory, and maybe find out about this grudge. But hopefully you don't, because that's a whole nother thing I have to read on.
I like how you just named that the grudge. Like we speculated that he had some sort of beef with it, and now you've just gone and named it the grudge, as if
That's
it's
gonna, anytime you're speaking about this hunt, call it the grudge. I'll know what we're talking about.
the grudge. So we've gone through all four boxes now. I don't know what you guys think. What is your favorite one? Well, we haven't gone through the lion's share, which is the rest of the whole book, but the full mini boxes. We've got the past and future, the Pokemon, the Appalachian footpath, the Appalachian Trail box, and now the Forest Fen one. Which one speaks to you? Actually, let me just recap it a little bit. Past and future was the word search, the cryptogram, very technical, right? The Appalachian Trail was very short, had one map for you to look at and try and find where it is. The Forest Fenn one we just talked about is very historical, a lot of wordplay, poems, that sort of thing. And the Pokemon one was very whimsical. It was kind of a fictional story and centered on Pokemon. Which one do you guys are drawn to? Which one are you looking to do?
I personally, obviously, was immediately drawn to the Appalachian footpath box just because that already speaks to my soul as it is, being an AT hiker, and how much he talks about Asheville. That's my biggest confirmation bias is that I love Asheville. So I really want it to be in North Carolina so I can go boots on the ground in Asheville and spend time in Western North Carolina, which they had a really tough summer. But I think it's just as interesting to wonder, North Carolina and then the Vermont are obviously the two big schools of thought, but I think it's interesting that he doesn't tell you what's in this one at all. And why is that? Why doesn't he tell you about any of the treasure that's in it? I think that's intentional.
It's very mysterious, I think. Yeah, this one. Max, what do you think? Which box are you looking for?
The poem one is more my style. I think if I can get 50% of an idea of where it's at from the poem, I'll definitely have better success with that type of hunt.
Well, I'm really into, I think, the word search and the cryptogram. That kind of what I'm drawn to. Plus, the clues are based on 80s video games and movies, and I think that's really fun. So for me, I think I'm into the past and future box. Management sounds like you're into the Appalachian Trail. Max sounds like you're into the Forest Fenn. None of us will do the Pokemon one. We can forget about that one. No one needs to know the Pokemon. Well, that's just about it for this week. So, management, thanks for joining us tonight. But where can people reach you? What are you up to?
Well, most of the time right now I'm treasure hunting in all my spare time. I've got treasure stoke real bad. So definitely a lot of time spent there. If you're looking for more information from me, I did a huge write-up on the Forrest Fenn box and just breaking down the poetry from a grammatical standpoint and a literary standpoint today. And that is up on my Gumroad, which is themanagement.gumroad.com.
And yeah, I mean, don't sell yourself short. You've got a lot of information there rather than just the Forest Fenn box. You've got a lot of compiled information, which takes a lot of time. So thank you for doing that. So for people that are looking for more information, check out management's Gumroad website. And there's a lot of compiled information about all the interviews he's done and the information that's come out on that.
Yeah, there is a lot of crowdsourced information that's available totally for free, the majority of which I've gathered from Reddits and from Discords and from Facebook groups and everywhere that I keep seeing the same questions asked or the same points made over and over and over again. I personally needed to make them for myself, but I don't own the theories, so I just made them available to everyone from a safe platform where they can download it without worries of malware or anything like that.
Sounds great. And I'll be checking that out as well. But it looks like we got Christmas the next few days. But we'll be back. I've got a nice break here so we can spend some time researching these hunts a little more. But everyone have a great Christmas. Thanks, management and Max for joining me today, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks, Chaz. Thanks to management.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you guys have a great Christmas and a happy New Year, and we'll talk soon.